Hello, hello. We didn't forget about you. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 408 at scavengerlife.com.
Just like Ryan says, we did not forget about you.
We did not forget about you.
We had a long weekend in Chicago visiting my sister and her children.
Yes.
We thought we would be scavengers. Frugal people who would sleep in my sister's extra bedroom. Just sort of save money while we're seeing them,
right.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Sure. You're like, it's free.
Absolutely not a good idea.
It's terrible.
I love my sister and her kids, but there's a reason why we ourselves do not have children, because they're two young boys, 8 and 10. Just, they're insane little kids.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that's a normal. I'm really not around kids enough to kind of know, But,
well, look, we've been around them before and we've stayed at their house before. It's not like it was anything new, but it was like smack dab in the middle of their week.
But the whole point is like we couldn't ever find time to do the podcast because there was never enough time where things were calm enough and quiet enough to do it.
Right.
I really, like I always say, hats off to anyone out there that can have children, work a job, and do eBay. I don't know how anyone does it.
I don't know how anyone does it.
Hats off to you.
I mean, I just don't even know. It's amazing.
So this week we had a great comment from someone new that joined the forum.
Yeah.
And she talked about the in-between work. She said, okay, this is a lot more work. Selling on eBay is a lot more work than I anticipated. Buying and selling are the fun days, but everything in the middle is a lot of work.
It's like the in-between sandwich.
Yeah.
It's like the work sandwich.
And then she says, but I go to bed feeling accomplished, and with that, I put some good work in today, thoughts floating in my head. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good comment from someone who is new to selling on eBay. Because I think most people think that, you buy it at Goodwill and you sell it and it's so easy, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But really,
right.
I like what she says. It's all about the in-between work,
All that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and those are hard videos, I think, on a YouTube for the popular reseller people. It's hard to make fun videos about building your own infrastructure and building its processes to keep things
right.
It's moving,
right? Exactly,
and
that's the like we say, the unglamorous world of selling on eBay.
Right.
Okay, you can find a gem, you can sell a gem,
right?
But everything in between is what makes it happen,
right? And I think when I ever meet someone at an auction or something, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I sold this thing on eBay,"
right?
I think there's a difference, and I always try and find this way. If I'm talking to these people, it's a difference between I sold this thing versus I sell every day.
Right.
Because there's a wide gap between those two kinds of people.
Right.
eBay is really easy. You take your phone now, you snap a photo of it, you put a title, a price, done. That's easy.
What's not easy is, like you said, building the processes and the infrastructure and possibly training someone else to help you. There's all this stuff in
after
between.
You get 10 things, you're like, wait a second, where am I going to put all this stuff?
How am I going to find it when it sells?
And these things don't actually sell very quickly.
Right.
Even popular stuff will take time.
Right.
And, once you start getting up to 500 items, it's like, wait, this is taking up a significant portion of my life. You know? Finding it. If you're selling every day, you have to find time to ship every day.
Yep. That's a big part of it. This morning I woke up and I was like, I have, 10 things to ship, 3 of which are big, bulky, and delicate.
Right.
So, you were texting me like, hey, we got to go run into town to do this thing. And I'm like, I got to finish this. This isn't going to take me just a minute here.
I mean, those are the moments where you might rethink, wait, this might not have been a good idea to list this, set of china.
Oh my God. But,
But I really do is like that, though. It's really calling it the in-between work.
Yeah.
That's
the stuff everybody hates.
Right.
Everybody hates that.
And that's why I think when people are like, why do you do this podcast? Like, don't tell people how to do this. Like, don't. Yeah. I'm not worried about it because really, I feel like probably 90% of people
aren't going to do the work.
That may ever hear this are never actually going to sell on a consistent basis because they start doing that in between work and they're like, I don't have time for this. I don't like this.
Yeah, this is boring.
I'm confused by this.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I even, sometimes question some of those things. Like when we got back from Seattle, a couple weeks ago and then Chicago, it's like, I got to pull all this stuff. And you definitely feel the brunt of this where I get super cranky because I'm like, here's an object. It falls under 4 different categories. It could be in any of those bins. Mm-hmm. I know people are going to be like, you need a SKU system, blah, blah, blah. And so whatever, it's like...
When it gets painful enough, we'll actually do it.
But look, we found everything, so it's not a problem. But, you get to that point where you're like, what am I doing here?
I think it surprises some people when we say we have over 8,000 items. And I can count on one hand the amount of times we haven't been able to find something.
Right.
And on my hand, I have 5 fingers.
Yes, you do.
So I know it's frustrating, but we always do find everything.
Yeah. So,
but that's because we do have a system that makes sense.
There's a system. Yeah. And actually a lot of the little, small stuff is numbered in lots. Right. So I will be like, okay, it should be.
And I've said it before, there are people that sell more than we do. They make more money than we do. I mean, we are by far not the best sellers on eBay, whatever that may mean. I think in our defense or to compliment ourselves, what we do have are good. It's processes.
Yes.
We're good at the in-between work.
Right.
That's the only way that you can run a store with 8,000 items.
And when we decided that in-between work was piling up and not happening, we hired someone.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like, we've got death piles upon death piles because we've been renovating buildings. We're trying to do some video work, it's just not, we weren't able to juggle it all.
I think that's why I love when people join the forum and they're like, hi, I'm selling, for X number of years and I have so many items. I always love to then just start asking them questions about the in-between work.
Right. What are your processes?
It's stuff that people don't really talk about.
Yeah.
Because everyone thinks nobody cares. But those of us that really sell and sell consistently for a long period of time, that's the meat and potatoes.
Right.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Like, how are you finding things? Then what do you do with those things?
Right.
And how do you ship them?
Right.
That's the stuff.
Well, because that's the real meat of the business. It's not just... I found a piece of gold and then I sold it and that's it. It's like there's so much more to it.
And also, how do you stay as motivated during all that time?
Right.
Like, I feel like we don't really meet a lot of people online that sell consistently for long periods of time. A year here, 2 years here, but then it feels like they drop off. Maybe they'll come back. But it's hard, I think, to meet. I think if you're someone that has been selling on eBay for 3 or more years at one time, that's pretty impressive.
Right.
I think that means that you really created. I think you've mastered the in-between work.
I think a lot of people, and I've met lots of people like this, like we're saying, they think it's super easy where they're like, oh, I'll just find some like cute stuff at the whatever, the, estate sale and just like pop it up on eBay. And you're like, you put 10 things up. Like,
I think it's difference between someone that goes to the grocery store and buys, it's like a basil plant and puts it in their window and like harvests the basil to making their spaghetti sauce versus the person that's actually farming, 100 acres.
Right.
Like there's such a gulf between there because the person that's farming 100 acres has all this infrastructure and schedules they have to figure out.
Right. It's a different level.
Essentially, they're doing the same thing. They're like harvesting and growing something to eat, but it's so much different.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it.
Okay, let's talk about eBay this week. It happened. This is hot off the presses, right?
Oh, yeah?
The spring seller update was announced this morning.
Okay, I didn't look at it.
If you come on the forum, people are talking about it. I glanced at it it's my phone, just kind of is read through it. I didn't see anything really that popped out that is it's surprise.
Okay.
It's basically kind of putting in concrete everything they've been talking about. So everything's good till canceled. It looks like people were complaining about they want to be able to end everything at one time and redo everything at one time. So they're going to allow that.
I mean, I think I just did that the other day with some old listings. And it was fine.
So I don't know. There's something about that. And then just they talked about managed payments is coming.
Okay.
They talked about, they're now taking taxes for
which
everything.
all those things we knew, but they're just like putting it in a list.
Yeah. And then they said things like, we want to protect you, so they're going to make it easier to report buyers who are abusing the returns.
Saying,
so people say,
hey, this didn't fit, item not described.
Right. So there'll be a way to report that person, and then they say they're going to take action. They did do like a nugget at the end that was most interesting to me. They said, in the summer, we're going to add something to the program where if you have really good feedback, like a consistent history of selling well, that they're going to take that into consideration when something happens.
Like when you get an INAD?
I guess they weren't really clear. So it's going to be interesting what that means. But I mean, a lot of us have said that for a long time.
Okay, right.
If you have a buyer that's causing a problem, accusing you of something, blah, 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 and you go to eBay, it's like we've all said, take my history.
Look at my history.
I'm selling, 2,000 items a year after year.
Since 99,
right. And, take that into iteration here. That would be interesting.
Right, exactly. I mean, yes, I agree. I wish that just that history counted for like fee discounts. Like, why don't you give me fee discounts?
Like, it's My Cottage on the forum said that they were not upset, but they were like, this is not a big deal. There are things that he wants, and that's like, I want on eBay to be able to give our helpers access to eBay.
Right.
Partial access.
Right.
That would be awesome.
Yes. I know, like you're logged into my account, you could buy stuff if you wanted.
You can see everything.
Right.
Like, just give people partial access to different parts of eBay.
Yes.
They want eBay to be able to create coupon codes. I don't know. That's not a really big deal for me, but I can understand why some people would want to be able
give
to
a discount.
Like here's a coupon code. It's a week long.
Right.
Buy something now, you get 20%.
Like, because you could print that out and send it to the people.
True.
You know what I mean? It's like, Ryan's spring sale, and then you send it and say, this is good for the next 2 weeks. So check out my store on your, shipments.
Yeah. So
sure.
Anyway, and for anyone new, sorry, I should have started with this. Anyone who is new, eBay does this every 3 times a
It's now 3 times.
Spring, summer, and fall.
It used to be twice.
They do this update where eBay is just tweaking the rules. They're changing things. I mean, ultimately, it's all about improvement. But it can be very annoying for those of us that sell, because if the changes are big, it can make you have to change your in-between work,
Right.
Like, we have a way of doing things.
Right.
Sometimes these changes can be big enough to where we have to like stop, rethink how we're doing things, teach our helper how to do that,
They seem to always like to make big changes right before Christmas.
And a fall, they'll do these big changes.
What?
I mean, that's, I guess, kind of, it's funny that you bring that up. I was thinking about that. So managed payments is supposed to be rolling out. Some people are doing it in beta mode.
Yeah.
They're not forcing anyone to do it yet. My concern is they're going to force people to do it in the fall.
Right before Christmas.
Like October, November, when like Christmas is happening, and buyers are going to be like,
how do I pay for
where's
this?
Where's PayPal, and why can't I do it the same way I've always done it? You hope someone at eBay knows. Wait to do that till next spring, where you force everyone to do it. But anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, gut reaction to the week, Ryan.
It's hard to say because we're like now basically almost in the middle of the week, so I don't know.
So we have just been kind of plodding along. It was it was a solid week in my mind.
Okay. Just break it down.
Okay, I will. And we made almost $1,600.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So that seems to be about kind of
a little bit higher.
What we're doing these days. We sold 39 items.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you think about it, we're making a little over $200 a day.
Yeah.
We're selling 6-ish items a day.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you told me back when we started that we would be selling $200 a day, I'd be like, whoa.
What?
Yeah. So.
Well, it just feels steady. Like it feels like there's a couple, sales every couple hours.
I mean, when I look at its performance on our eBay hub thing, I mean, it looks like we're like 20% lower than a year ago. So.
I mean, those numbers are weird. I guess they're correct.
Yeah, I don't know, but
they never seem above last year. Anytime I look at it, I'm like, But
anyway, things we sold. The big sale I thought was we sold these cable, like TV, internet cable, like outside boxes.
It's like for a broadband network,
right?
Like
so, like when sometimes you'll go to a thrift store, right? Junky thrift store,
right?
And you'll see something on the shelf that just doesn't look like anything.
You're like, what is this?
The
boxes
people
of
that
weird
work there don't know it's what it is, and they just will sell it for so cheap.
Yeah,
and these were it's metal boxes where cables go into.
Right.
But the good thing is that if you're smart, you'll take a chance and you get it and you open it up and there'll be writing on there and then you Google it and then you're like, wow, this is actually like an industrial piece of equipment.
Model. There's model numbers.
Right.
I mean, we were just like, whatever these are, they're new in the box and they have model numbers and they're something.
Like someone who has to know it's what it is.
Right, we'll know what it is.
So we sold 2 of these things for $300 and we sold them almost overnight to a guy who installs cable in Ohio.
Broadband networks in Ohio. So we were like, cool.
Score.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Sorry.
But it is funny when you have an object where you're like, I don't know what this is, but it has a serial number. And actually one of them, or a model number, one of them didn't have anything on the outside. And he requested that I unscrew the top and look on the inside. And
he told us how to
do it. And he's like, it'll probably start with these letters. And it did. And I took a photo of it and added it to the listing. I'm like, I didn't know I could just unscrew these. They looked like they were welded shut. And then he bought it,
But I think that's a good example of the way we scavenge. We're looking for quality material.
Like you could tell it was something.
I didn't know what it was.
Right. And they were new in box. So
you could just see it was heavy duty and it was something nice.
It was some kind of industrial electric.
And so we will grab that stuff all day, every day, and then figure out
it
what it is.
Yeah, so that was helpful. I didn't even know what to call them. I was like, I don't know what this is called.
So this is an example of, we talk about we don't ever change its prices very often. Like we list it and forget it. We sold a wool rug for $125.
Yeah.
Which is low for us.
Very low because it was a huge rug.
But it was on our porch and we wanted it gone.
Well, look, someone had bought it for $400. Thing was huge. Shipped it to him, this guy down in Texas. And then he was like, yeah, I don't like it.
Yep.
Returned it.
Yep. So, which is his right.
Which he can do. It's fine. It just those are the returns that suck. Where you're like, I have to return $400 to this guy. So it was in a box. He had put it in this big box to send it back. He paid for shipping, which is nuts. So it was still in the box. It was clean. It'd been sitting there for 6 months, and it was so great because I went through and lowered a bunch of prices on some rugs and furniture and stuff that's taking up room, basically. And it sold the next day. She was like, if you'll do 125, I'll do it. And I was like, yep.
You're like, absolutely.
I couldn't say yes fast enough because it was already on the porch. So I just, taped it up and put it out for the post office. Yeah. It was great.
And then other than that, it's just a whole lot of odds and ends.
Yeah. A lot of clothes.
I remember when we were in Chicago and we're seeing the things that sell.
Yeah.
It's just I'm just I even forgot we even had that.
You're just
some a wiffle, some badminton
shuttles.
Cocks.
Yeah. I know. You're just
Like,
number one, why do I have this?
Right.
Number two, someone bought it.
Yep.
I mean, they bought them for like $9 or something.
yeah, just like all kinds of kooky stuff.
Yeah,
so
just weird stuff.
It's good to see people are buying, but we just can never tell what people will buy.
That's why it's so funny when like I look through our bins in our storage and I'm like, why do I have all this? And then something in that realm sells and you're like, well, because, 10 of those things sold this week.
Yep.
That's just what it is.
It's kind of been a theme we've had it recently where just like we just get it reminded why our particular way of selling on eBay works for us. Because we see it day in and day out. We're like, wow, this thing sold that we've had for a couple of years now. And that's cool.
Like, there's one thing that I wrapped up this morning, this coffee tin. It was just a brass stamped coffee tin. It was kind of a funky shape. And I'm like, we sold it. And I'm like, I honestly thought that would never sell because it's been in this bin. Every time I look through the bin of like coffee, kitchen stuff, I'm like, oh, this thing, it's here again.
Yep.
Finally it sells. And you're like, oh, yes.
And it sold for what? Like
$30.
$30.
I mean, that's not a bad sale. Well, I took an offer, but
right.
yeah.
And and these are things that we buy for a quarter.
Nothing.
So again, that's...
Yeah, so it makes me feel better when that stuff does sell, every
You should
week.
feel good.
It feels so good.
Customer issues. Again, we had one buyer this week that did not pay. They make an offer.
Yeah.
We immediately accept.
Send them an invoice, send them reminders, nothing.
Silence.
Well, I have automatic unpaid item assistant on, and it just...
Thank you to a person that told us about that.
Right. So you can turn it on for 2 days. It's convoluted how you do it, but you do it. You can do it. I can't explain how I did it. Someone had to walk me through like 5 steps.
But now it works.
So what's great is they're like unpaid item case opened, however many days go by, and it relists it for you. Yeah. And then I just block that person.
We've said this before, but that's another change I wish eBay would do, is that if buyers want to make an offer,
automatic payment.
Their account is already attached to their PayPal and their bank account.
Whatever.
So if they make an offer for $30 and I accept, I immediately get paid.
All they have to do is put that language in the offer.
Right.
They just have to say, please note that if this is accepted, your account will be debited.
Right. Immediately.
Why not?
Yep. But
it drives me nuts.
But anyway, it's just those are the roles.
So they didn't pay. And then there was someone who didn't pay and the item went on unpaid item assistant, whatever. And they were like, I need to cancel. And then they paid for it. You're like, okay, I guess I'm going to mail it. It's like, and then, another customer issue was just returned for fit, but it was a high dollar item. It was like shoes for $85, which sucks.
And the person got them, tried them on. They don't quite fit. Send them back. They aren't our fault.
Yeah,
it's just
tough when you're like, I gotta read.
Especially on a week where you're not making boodles of cash.
Yeah, you're like, there goes basically $100.
Yeah. Okay, things we learned in the forum. Ryan, I think you're gonna enjoy this one.
Okay.
So this happens often on our forum. Someone comes on, they're like, I had this buyer, they want this thing, but I don't know about this, and I feel about this, and the person, I think they're this, and like, there's all these things. And my thing is this: sometimes you have to have just a binary decision.
Yeah.
Yes, no.
Right.
Like, I don't care who the person is, old person, young person. I don't care about like the emotions involved.
Yes.
Just like the person wants this item. Do you feel uncomfortable trying to sell to this person? If you do, cancel the sale or block the person.
Right.
Do you feel like it's a good risk? Like, are you hungry and are willing to take a risk to sell to a kind of a weird person? Sell it.
Right.
And just do it.
Right.
I just think that sometimes that is the best thing. And we do that among ourselves.
Yeah, sure. Look, it's like when somebody is like, this last week, this is a pair of shoes for $20. And they were like, sent me this long paragraph. I love these. I have to buy them. The shipping's too high. It's like this person in California, so shipping might be a little high. And I just, blah, 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 blah. So I look at this shoe just forever. You're like, okay. At first I was just going to ignore them, like, oh, this person's too much trouble. But then I opened up the listing and I was like, it looks like the weight on these shoes, either they're heavy shoes and they have like wooden soles, so they are this heavy, or it doesn't matter. And I think I can put them in a flat rate padded envelope. So I switched the shipping policy and I was like, okay, I shipped the policy. It should be cheaper. And then they bought them. So that was my decision, was like, do I want to take the time to like figure out if this is incorrect or if I want this person to buy it? I answered yes. There's so many times where I'm like, nope.
Yep.
Not going to bother. This person is like way too much work,
But we just say that because I think this might help, especially new people that are selling. It's good to be friendly. It's good to I like person to person, like community selling to people.
Right.
But at the same time, we are totally not into long paragraphs, emails to people, like reasoning. I think I was the worst of that when we first started on eBay. I had the worst beginning idea of what eBay was. I thought if someone, I thought we could buy clothes that were stained and ripped, and you could sell it to someone, and if they complained about it, I could talk to them. But
somehow convince them.
Like the rip really isn't in a bad place. It kind of gets. I mean, how crazy to think that I could convince people otherwise. I mean,
I think one of the first things I sold early on in 2005, I had this coat. It was a wool coat, and it was the outside was great, black wool, long winter coat. But the inside was torn to shreds. I didn't photograph that, didn't mention that at all. And they left me, I bet if you look at the first page of my feedback from 15 years ago, they'll be like, this person sold me a jacket, whatever, Right. And it's just funny because I was like, what was I thinking?
Yeah. But it was pretty early on after a couple of these times when people are like, no, this is crazy. I don't want this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm doing something totally wrong here.
Either you disclose that and someone wants it anyway because it's a cool piece and they want to repair it or they don't care.
Right.
Or, you have to disclose that stuff.
Well, not only that, but I guess my point is these days we don't do really much communication with anybody.
It's minimal.
It's all the facts.
Yeah.
What size is this?
What are the
I'll say the size, but I do not get into convincing people. People I don't like this thing. Fine, return it. Done. That's it.
Right.
And that's the easiest thing.
I think on one of these dresses, I didn't even say what color it was, and it was red. But she's like, oh, I thought this was orange. And I was like, it's red, clearly. Oh, I never said it anywhere in my listing what color it was. So this is, back in 2008. So she was able to return it. It's just funny.
Yeah.
It's just...
Okay, so should we go to questions?
Sure.
That people sent in.
Are you unsure about that?
Hi, this is Jen in West Virginia. I just wanted to call in and touch on a couple of items that's been discussed on the podcast recently. I've been selling on eBay for over 20 years now. The longest break I've ever taken has been 3 months, so I've seen a lot of changes over the years. And selling on eBay is much different now than it was in the 1990s. There didn't used to be the stores or even buy it nows. There were no item specifics, which I really hate. And I do remember the good old days without them. Not as many people were selling on eBay. It seemed a lot easier to find stuff, and it seemed like a lot more of the stuff that you listed sold and sold quickly. The other thing with selling is I've learned over the years that no matter what happens in the economy, there's still certain types of items that's going to sell. The months after 9/11 were some of the slowest I can remember. Everybody was scared of using the post office. there was the anthrax scare. And at that time, I wondered if the days of eBay were over, but they weren't. And another thing, when I met my stepmother-in-law, one of the first things she asked me was how much money I made on eBay, thinking, oh, this is just a hobby or whatever. She also asked what would happen if people stopped buying items online and buying gas, because my husband works in an upscale convenience store. My thought was, if people quit driving cars and purchasing everything, there'd probably be bigger things to worry about, because we'd probably be in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. But I just explained to her that if something quits selling, you just start selling another type of item, because people are always going to use consumable items, even if they aren't buying collectibles, and there's always something that's going to be selling on eBay. So that's just my thoughts on, the economy, how eBay's changed, everything. So love the podcast, been listening for years. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, I have not been selling that long for sure. But I think that it is crazy to think again, there would be a binary on-off. One day, suddenly nothing is selling on eBay. But I do think, though, that, things do change, and we just all have to be prepared for certain things not selling as much anymore. Or, economy goes bad for a short period of time, but things always come back.
Yeah, I feel obviously things have changed for us over the 10 years we've been doing it, but in terms of just the general, it's almost the theme we talked about just, when we started this podcast today. It's it's the same process. It does not change. You do it once, you do it 1,000 times.
I mean, I think if anything, more and more people buying online is going to become the norm. I don't know the percentages right now.
Right.
But I still think that people are buying a lot of stuff in stores. I think online is going to be more and more of how people buy.
Yeah, I mean, to think that people aren't going to buy online anymore is
yeah.
I mean, like you said, if there's no internet and electricity and gas, that's the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean, basically, zombie apocalypse happens. I'm worried about many other things other than is someone going to buy my old shoes on eBay, So
yeah.
Hello, Ryan and Jay. This is Eric in South Carolina again, calling you back to follow up with the sale. I called and had a question for you about a very high dollar sale in a way to protect myself in case it was a scam. The item was a vintage skateboard from the 1980s, right around the time that I was skating on them growing up. Found it in the thrift store for $6, I think, and ended up selling it. The gentleman who won the bid paid $1,552 for it. So it was the original gentleman that wanted to buy it the second day outside of the auction. I told him I was going to let it go to auction because I saw so many views and so many watchers that I thought there would be a bidding war, so to speak. And I kind of had a question. I know y'all don't do auctions. Y'all do buy it now. Didn't know if you had any experience with auctions as far as having lots of views. This literally in 10 days had 500 views, which for me is astronomical on any item. And it had 47 watchers. And in the end, there was only two bidders. Two. It was just the original guy who put in the original bid and someone else. So I was very surprised, a little confused as to why there weren't more bidders. My wife did link the eBay link for this auctioned item over to Pinterest, so maybe that increased the views of people who weren't as serious contenders about buying it. But anyway, the only other thing is I have really feel that I could have ended up getting about $2,500 or $3,000 for it if I would have sold it off auction, because this guy is a collector. The second night that it was, he contacted me the second night of the auction. He was very eager and just basically said, name your price. So there'll always be a little bit of regret there of not just seeing if I could have gone for a higher price. But what I think gives me a little bit of peace is I really enjoy the eBay community. I really enjoy the thrifting community and the scavenging community. So I really liked the opportunity of seeing the auction run its course, seeing and not knowing that there would be but two. It was just nice to let other folks, 500 views, 500 folks see the item, appreciate the item, and for all I know, have a chance to bid on it. So it was fun. It really was. And Ryan, you'll appreciate this. I had to Frankenbox the package, take 2 big boxes, cut the ends off, and then put them together using a lot of styrofoam. I did insure it, and I've been talking to the gentleman back and forth. I don't think it's going to be a return. He has since sent me pictures of it. He took the trucks and wheels off, and he cleaned it up, and he's going to display it right next to another one that he has, so it's become part of a collection. The item went to a good home.
Yeah, I mean, super huge congrats. Like, what a great sale. A 6-star skateboard.
Yeah.
And he knows that it's something special.
Yeah.
And then he goes for it. I think that's great. I think as far as, like, did you undersell it? I mean, I don't know. You got to be careful about thinking about things again and again, what you could have done better. I think it's just hard to tell. I mean, that's the thing about auctions. People are like, oh, if you got something really special, put it on an auction and, they'll set the price for you. But the problem is auctions, as we always say, is only 10 days long at the most. So you have to make sure there are the people who want to buy that thing who are online and see it within those 10-day period.
Right.
I think sometimes, when you get something like that, it may draw a lot of attention, but the amount of people who are willing to shell out over $1,000 for an item are very small.
Rare.
So there's a lot of people that can appreciate it who think it's cool.
Yeah.
But they can't afford that kind of money. So yeah, and also it's with auctions. Maybe the buyer that bid the highest might have been willing to pay $5,000 if there was someone else there, but there wasn't.
Yeah.
So that goes back to, well, why not just then put your own price on it at buy it now with make offer. So put $10,000 on it, Right. But then you have to wait for however long to find someone to give you an offer.
And then also what's tough about that sometimes is you put a high price on it. Oh, I want $5,000 for it. And then you get offers of like $1,500, $1,700. And you're like, is that it? Or should I wait for the $5,000?
Well, it's for instance, we got a print at an auction 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and we have like $2,500 or something on it. It's
that painting. Yeah, it's like a painting print.
And we've gotten a couple offers, one for like $800, one for $500, and we've just countered.
Yeah. And then you're like, is it only worth? But
maybe if we get a couple more of those kind of offers, we're like, oh, well, the market's kind of setting the price, so we'll take $800 and we're laughing,
Right, exactly.
But it's just hard to tell.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think anyone that sells on eBay for a long time will just say, man, $1,500, amazing.
$6 item.
As most people, they don't have the knowledge to know that you can do that. So good for you.
I mean, our highest price item ever sold in 10 years was $1,800.
Right.
So you're like, there you go. $1,500. Right. That's a great sale.
It's just rare to find items that will sell that much.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that is it for the podcast today. You can check out our blog at scavengerlife.com for the links we discussed and to join the conversation on the forum. As you heard, you can leave a question or a comment on our voicemail line. The phone number is 540-407-8486. We sometimes post an episode every Monday morning. On Wednesday, we post a What Sells video showing what sold and how much it sold for, currently being brought to you by Stephen Schultz. You can subscribe to our Patreon account on our sidebar and help support us for as little as $5 a month. You can subscribe to us for free through iTunes and YouTube, so you always get the latest episode. You can buy our archive of over 5 years of podcasts, which is also on the sidebar. It says download all, so you can listen on your device and listen offline. We are ending this podcast in 3, 2, 1.